I just want to, I have to say this because I was actually originally going to come on here and say something a little bit different. But I can't because that would be disingenuous. I am honestly kind of disappointed in us as a fan base. And here's why. If we are being honest, and I think why shouldn't we not be honest, right? We have to look at the fact that no one wants to be here in New York playing for the Knicks right now. It is obvious. And we could get into the reasons for that. I think the most obvious reason is there's a bad team here, and anyone that could have come here, whether it was Fred VanVleet or Gordon Hayward, it's like they would still be a bad team, even if that person came. And nobody wants to come play for the Knicks with the attention that they get if they're bad, because it sucks to play for the Knicks in New York. I don't care if there are no fans in the stands when they're bad. I think they're, and I think that can be tough to accept, but the alternative is you go out and you pay guys 33, 50, 75% more than they're worth. And we did that last summer. We went and got, it's absurd to say, we got Bobby Portis for we paid Bobby Portis 15 million American dollars. That happened, Jeremy, right? I didn't imagine that.
That happened.
That was a real thing that happened. Like Julius Randle, people want to talk about like the contract that Julius, it's not that bad of a contract. It's fair. Go look around at what other non-shooting, non-rim protecting bigs who are better defensively than Julius Randle got over the last 4 days. Go look at those contracts. And it's just like the people that are going to come here, if they're going to come here, they're going to come here on overpays. So like, I get you're upset, and I shouldn't even say you're upset. I get that you're less than pleased with Elfrid Payton as like the point guard here, and I get a lot of people are upset at that. I'm upset at it. You know why? Because I had to watch Elfrid Payton last year, and he wasn't particularly fun to watch. And when the team was on the floor with him, they were frustrating, and I totally hear that, and I totally get it. And I remember I didn't get amnesia, right? I remember that happened. But the sad fact is that he was the best point guard willing to come here and take our money to play this year. Unless could DJ Augustine have taken, goodness, I don't know. What do you want? 3 years, $30 million? Do you want to pay DJ Augustine 3 years, $30 million, Jeremy?
I do not.
Not so much, right? Shabazz Napier, that's what's getting your blood flow out there, Knicks fans. Shabazz Napier, go look at his on-off splits over the course of his career. For the minutes that he played, he has not necessarily been a guy who stayed on the court all that much. Anyway, I get all that, but it's not about Elfrid Payton necessarily. It's like they needed to go out and act responsibly. They needed to give the fan base, me personally, the belief that they were not going to be pressured into doing something ridiculously stupid. And through 5 days, after a lot of people for a lot of the last 9 months have been jumping up and down worrying, Leon Rose, why would Leon Rose come here if not to bring stars to this organization? They don't have a comprehensive plan. All of these development people, they're for show. It's all nonsense. It's all BS. They went out and they acquired Ed Davis for 2 future second round picks. And then they maneuvered on draft night. They traded for a future second. They're in it on JaVale McGee right at press time, who knows what happens with that. They haven't gone and traded for Russell Westbrook. They didn't pay Gordon Hayward 4 years and $120 million. They didn't do any of those things. They made moves around the margins. They did what I personally as a fan have been begging them to do for essentially the last 20 years. And they didn't. And I don't want to hear, I'm going to write about it for today's newsletter because coming at you on Monday, but you can't compare this to last offseason when they paid guys 2 and 3 times more than they were worth. And more importantly, when they went out and got guys who were completely the worst fits with the players that they had who need the ball in their hands and need guys who are going to complement that. You don't bring in a Bobby Portis or a Marcus Morris or Julius Randle if you're trying to foster the development of a Kevin Knox and RJ Barrett. You don't do that. Is Elfrid Payton great? No, of course Elfrid Payton's not great. This isn't about Elfrid Payton being great. And I'm sorry for everybody who's like, well, why'd you have to bring in anyone? Run Frank and DSJ out there at the point guard position. Folks, there is no easier way. I'm almost done, I promise. There is no easier way to make the players on your roster absolutely despondent about what you are doing as an organization than putting them out with a point guard who can't play point guard. And look, I love Frank Ntilikina. I want to believe in Frank Ntilikina. I think Dennis Smith Jr. deserves some modicum of belief in him. These are still young players. They could grow. The notion that it would have been a responsible decision to go into next season with those two people at the point guard position and nothing else is lunacy. I'm sorry, it's lunacy. They needed to bring in someone who could run a competent offense. And I'm not going to sit here and quote statistics about how many points per 100 possessions the Knicks scored when Elfrid Payton was on the floor with Mitchell Robinson or when he was on the floor with Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle. And yes, even when he was on the floor with Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle, and RJ Barrett, you can look them up, folks. They're pretty damn good. I get it's ugly, and I get the spacing isn't ideal. Well, guess fucking what? Beggars can't be choosers. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel. And this is the last thing I'm going to say. For fans who wonder why we hear the rumors about Russell Westbrook and John Wall and whoever else the fuck. This is why when you have people who have to run the organization and they look out and they see everybody and their mother being like either A, why didn't the Knicks do anything? Or B, this is all the Knicks did. They just have to act like a normal goddamn organization for once in their lives. And I'm sorry if Elfrid Payton made you get in your feelings about their offseason. I really do apologize for that. But for fuck's sake, sack up and accept the fact that this is where this organization is at right now. Blame whoever you want. There's a lot of people to go around to blame. Some of them are still there. I hope they lose their jobs soon. Don't have to guess to think of who I'm talking about. But it's time to look in the mirror and realize where this thing is at. And where this thing is at is ground floor, basement. They need to operate like this to get back to a place where hopefully, fingers crossed, they can develop talent, turn these draft assets into something, turn this flexibility into something. Again, this was the easy part. That's the worst part. It's like people are complaining about this. This was the easy part. This was the bare minimum. Now comes the hard part. Can they do it? We'll see. I don't know. But the last 5 days have given me encouragement. That's it. I'm sorry. I don't think I've had maybe 5 rants like that in the history of the show. And I felt like one was needed here. So